Joining me now is Arkansas Republican Congressman Steve Womack. Congressman, we just went over some of the things in this deal that were put together to attract conservative support, the border elements of it. But it does look like it may already be DOA less than 24 hours after it was announced. Some of your colleagues, Matt Gaetz, no. Matt Rosendale called it a continuation of Nancy Pelosi's budget and Joe Biden's policies. Marjorie Taylor Greene says she's a no. The list goes on. What do you make of this mess right now?
Well, it's an unmitigated disaster right now on the majority side. Look, I'm fearful of what this leads to. But let's also remember it's the 18th of September. It's really early in the process, and I say that tongue in cheek. You know, we're going to run out of money in a little over a week. And my guess is we won't see a resolution to this. If we see a resolution that can clear both chambers, we won't see it until sometime late next week, just as the sands in the hourglass continue to fall through the glass and time is running out on us. But it's clear from last night's conference call and the ensuing social media remarks by a handful of members that the program that has been co-authored by Main Street and Freedom Caucus it does not have the sufficient votes right now in the House of Representatives to pass. In fact, I'm not even sure that if the Rules Committee today publishes a combined rule, I don't know if that's the case, but if they do a combined rule for appropriations on Wednesday and this package on Thursday, I'm not sure we do either of those because I'm not real sure that the rule can pass, and we have to pass the rule before we can go to the up or down vote on the underlying legislation. So it's in trouble, no question about that, and you don't have to be a political expert to figure that out.
Well, that's good to know, because that was my read on it as well. I'm curious, I mean, at whose feet do you lay blame for this? I mean, is this the Speaker's fault for not pulling the conference together or outsourcing this to, you know, these other disparate groups to organize this? Or is this sort of that rebel hard right group that doesn't seem to want to take yes for an answer?
You know, that's just too easy to suggest that there is that there is one element that bears the brunt of this. Let's just face the facts. The country is divided. The politics of the country are divided. There are strong feelings. We spend too much money, that we fund too many things that are not consistent with the underlying values that made America great. And there is a war going on right now between, and it's falling on the discretionary budget because that's the closest part of government that you see. And there is this great tug of war going on. We know the left wants to spend more money and fund more programs and grow government and raise taxes and all those kinds of things.
This seems to be a disagreement between people who agree on where you're trying to go.
I'm getting to that. And then you've got on the right, you've got a fractured GOP majority with a very, very slim number, and they can ill afford to fumble, or else they're going to have to rely on the left to come get those votes. So the point is that the Republicans are trying to carry this water on their own. They have to have 218 out of a very fractured group, and you've already got a sufficient number of people right now on the record on social media saying they're not going to take it up or not going to support it. I question whether or not we can even get a rule passed on it, and that means that we're going to fool around here another week, accomplish absolutely nothing. All the while, the country is headed toward a shutdown, and the Senate is trying its best to at least present an appropriations package that can clear the Senate and maybe come over to the House and get some bipartisan votes. But it's clear that Kevin McCarthy is concerned, has to be concerned about retaining the speakership if, in fact, he has to turn to the left and start courting votes on the left, because there would have to be something in the mix for them.
So what's the solution here? I mean, do you think some of these no votes are people who just sort of maybe have to touch the hot stove? Do we have to have a shutdown for people to get to the conclusion where this was always going to end up, that it might take a bipartisan deal like the debt deal?
Yeah, well, in this environment, that may be exactly what has happened. You have to find the bottom, and the bottom may indeed be some kind of a shutdown. The problem with a shutdown, though, think about this. You shut it down, eventually you got to open it back up. And under what conditions do you open it back up? Do you think the members of the hard right on the Freedom Caucus side are going to relent? I mean, how long did we think the Tommy Tuberville hold on military promotions was going to stand? And it's still in place today. So when people are determined and they're dug in, then you're going to have to find a different solution. In the old days, Matt, in the old days, a speaker would turn to the left and say, I don't have the votes on my side, but with 10 or 12 of your members coming to the table, we can get this deal done and move the country forward. But you know what that means, and I know the speaker's trying to avoid that circumstance.
Former President Trump was on this broadcast this weekend, basically encouraging a shutdown, saying, oh, if they can't get a good enough deal, they ought to get it done. How much does that influence your conference, and do you find that to be helpful?
Well, it probably does influence members of my conference. Personally, I think it's nonsensical to be advocating for a government shutdown. Look, you're talking to an ex-mayor. You know, my job was to run the city of Rogers, Arkansas,
right,
and put competing interests together and work out solutions, find compromise, and keep government afloat. That's what executive branch people do. I am concerned right now that there are too many people up here that don't feel like government shutdowns are all that bad a deal, that they don't really affect people. Let me assure you, and I don't care who you are, even if you don't think a government shutdown affects you, trust me, it's expensive, it affects you, and eventually we're going to have to get this thing operational once we shut it down. And the question then becomes, what changes in order to do that, and was it a fool's errand in the beginning?
Mayors always get this. If the trash collection doesn't come, they're responsible. I always find that to be the case with former mayors. I want to ask you about something else. So the impeachment inquiry. This was the huge topic last week. The Speaker making this announcement unilaterally. You were on the record in 2019 at the dawn of the first Trump impeachment inquiry. You posted on social media the following. This impeachment inquiry is unsurprising. Instead of governing, House Dems have been obsessed with impeachment. It's been their entire agenda. Fueling hysteria and spreading unsubstantiated narratives is dangerous. Congress should be focused on the challenges facing the nation. What's different now in 2023, Congressman?
Well, other than the fact that there is a kind of a cloud hanging over the entire Biden administration with regard to some of the deal making that it has been alleged. And about the only way to really figure this out is to do some kind of an inquiry, get the right answers, get everything on the record, and make an informed decision. I'm not about to suggest that I'm ready to vote for an impeachment, because that requires high crimes and misdemeanors, and that has not been proven as we hold this conversation. So let's get those answers. In the past, it was clear that that Democrats wanted to go after Donald Trump, and they did everything they could to do that. But I always subscribe to this. Impeachment is a very important and powerful tool. I would argue the most important tool in the toolbox for Congress to hold people accountable in the executive branch. I think you got to be careful how you use it, or else it becomes a useless tool and only for political purposes. We have to be careful not to do that.
All right, Congressman Womack, we covered a lot of ground there. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you coming on Meet the Press Now.
Glad to do it. Thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or follow us on social media.